Hey everyone, Craig with Single Length School and welcome back. In this video, we're talking one length with Cobra. Alright, so if you're new to the channel, this is your first time here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notifications bell right beside it. Don't forget, you can go follow me on social media. The channel links are going to pop up right below, so you can go follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So, today's day 3 of the PGA show, and I had a meeting set up that I was very, very excited for. I finally made a contact within Cobra to start talking one length irons. And I just got done sitting down with him, and I wanted to bring some of the great things that we talked about and a lot of the information I was able to learn. So, don't mind me as we go through this. I've got a lot of notes, so I'm going to keep referring back to my notes so I can keep my train of thought and bring you guys all the information that I talked about. So, I got the chance to talk to Tom Olsovsky. Tom is the Vice President of Club Research and Development with Cobra. So he's up there. He's got his hands on every single product that they make in terms of clubs, whether it's the drivers, the irons, wedges, whatever it is. Tom's overseeing all of the research and development to help improve their golf clubs. Excuse me. So start off by introducing myself to Tom, and really, as much as I wanted to talk about the other things, my focus here is single length and one length irons. So that's what we did. 30 minutes of talking one length irons from Cobra. And what I learned was a lot of great information that I'm going to share with you guys. So first of all, talking to Tom, my first question to him was, how popular are your one length irons? And I don't want to say he was shocked, but the number he gave me, I think kind of shocked me a little bit. I didn't expect it to be this high, but one length irons accounted for 35% of Cobra's iron sales last year. So it's up. And he said it keeps growing, which is a good thing. Guys are wanting to make the game easier. They want to golf smarter, not harder. So, and it's showing in the sales. 35% of your total club sales are one length irons. That's pretty good when you consider you've got all the different iron lineups, you've got drivers and things like that. 35% being one length shows that the concept is growing on people. Now, before I talk about some of the specs that we got into, which answers a lot of questions I get all the time, let's talk about the difference in the new RadSpeed one length irons versus the Speed Zone one length irons, last year's model. The biggest thing that a lot of guys are going to notice is the new 3D printed medallion in the back. But a lot of things look the same aside from that 3D medallion. They still have the same carbon fiber top, but there's some minute differences in there that really help the RadSpeed improve on what the Speed Zone one lengths did. What they were able to do is, and one of their goals is always to keep the center of gravity low in the clubs. And when you can keep it low, specifically the lowest point on an iron is the middle. So the more you can get that center of gravity towards the middle, the better your iron has the chance to perform. So they've improved a little bit on the center of gravity over the Speed Zone, and also introduced their radial weighting system to the RadSpeed irons as well. And the radial weighting system, there's a lot of science behind it. And I did take some physics courses in college, in high school, but the radial weighting system, it's a physics property that allows the weight to distribute in a way that allows the club to perform a little bit better. And if you want to learn more about the radial weighting system, I'm sure you can check it out on Cobra's website. But they've included that into the RadSpeed irons as well. They've also, according to Tom, gave it a more appealing look. So they've kind of slimmed down the back a little bit and slimmed the blade itself, so it's more appealing to the eye than the Speed Zone one length irons. They've also improved on the power shell face. with the irons themselves. He said it's a little bit thinner, but it produces a little bit more of a bounce effect, so to speak, to produce more power and gain more ball speed, which equates to more yardage. And the other thing we talked about is the hybrids. So one of the questions I posed to Tom, a question I get all the time, is the gapping issue a lot of guys see when they come to one length irons, especially in the 4, 5, 6 irons. And a lot of that, through their R&D and through what I've found as well, is because guys have a shorter 4, 5, or 6 iron, they tend to swing it harder. And that affects the way the club performs. Now, a lot of guys also say the ball flight is different in those 4, 5, 6 irons. So for guys that are looking for a lower trajectory, lower ball flight with those 4, 5, 6 irons, you're going to want to stick with the iron itself, with the RadSpeed one length or whatever one speed length you want. But for guys that are looking to get that ball higher and get more carry out of it, you're going to want to look into the hybrids. And again, with the one length hybrids, the RadSpeed one length hybrids, they've also done a better job of improving the center of gravity, introducing the radial weighting into the RadSpeed hybrids as well. So all in all, Tom said the RadSpeeds, the one length options, will help guys, will increase your distance about 2 to 3 yards. Same thing with the hybrids. So guys can expect to see through Cobra's R&D and testing to see somewhere between 2 and 3 more yards with your irons versus the speed zone. Now, the speed zone and the RadSpeed and the F9 all made great improvements over the F7 and the F8 sets. So with that being said, the goal for Cobra is every year to try and improve and try to get guys another yard, 2 yards, 3 yards with irons. And so you're going to see some similarities with the F9, the speed zone, and the RadSpeed, but there is improvement in the RadSpeed for those of you that are looking to get a little bit more distance, a little bit more consistency. They've included all of that information or taken that information and included that into the design of the RadSpeed. So you're going to see a slimmer look. The center of gravity is improved on thanks to the radial weighting. That's going to help as well. A little bit of a thinner face, and you guys will see the 3D medallion printed into the back. So those are the big changes with the RadSpeed one lengths that you guys can expect to see when you start to test those out. Now, we also covered the forged one lengths as well. So you guys know that I play the Forged Tec blacks. I love those. Bryson still plays the original forged one lengths, and they also have the new Forged Tec out, which has the hollow body with the speed foam or the foam cavity sprayed into it. The forged, from talking to Tom, one of their keys when it comes to creating the forged, doesn't matter if it's the one length or their standard variable length forged irons, but they're always, every iteration, they're looking to increase the speed and increase the distance. But as they do that, they're still trying to keep a very nice look to the eye. And in one length, they're trying to keep the same setup. So make sure it's a nice, clean setup so that you can have that same swing, same setup, same ball position every time you swing an iron. The other thing they try to do is keep the same feel or increase the feel. You know, that buttery soft that everybody talks about, that's something that forged irons give you over a cast iron. Now, one of the problems that you run into, or Cobra runs into, is to get that speed and distance, keep the same look, and keep the same feel, it's a little bit tougher in one length than it is variable length. And that's why you see the Forged Tecs out there, and it's their forged iron setup. They've only released 3 sets. The original forged one length, the Forged Tec black one length, and then now the new Forged Tec. That's why it's almost every other year there's a new forged one length coming out, is because there's a little bit more that has to go into creating a set of forged one length irons. Next, one of the biggest questions I get, because other manufacturers of single length irons keep the same lie angle. Well, Cobra changes the lie angle. And why? Well, according to Tom, when they were doing their research and studies and working with Bryson early on, Bryson said, I want everything exactly the same as my 7-iron. I want exact the same. So they did. First few sets they built, lie angle the same, shaft length the same, head weight was the same. Everything was the same. And for Bryson, that's what he wanted and that's what worked. But as they got into testing with the public and working with the public a little bit more, what they noticed, and it's a thing I notice when I'm working with my students, is that even though your 4, 5, 6 irons are going to produce the same distance as your variable lengths, and your wedges are going to produce the same distance as your variable lengths, the club setup, what happens with a lot of guys is because you have a shorter 4, 5, 6 iron or a longer pitching wedge, gap wedge, sand wedge, it changes how you swing. Rather than actually swinging the same as your 7-iron, with those 4, 5, 6 irons, guys swing harder. And when they swing harder, now the club's not connecting with the ground properly, and guys tend to spray it to the right, or for a left-hander, spray it to the left. With the wedges and the shorter clubs, because they're so much longer, guys are afraid to swing them. What happens is the opposite. Guys tend to pull because they're not swinging the same as their 7-iron. So the adjustment that they had to make to overcome the general population swinging harder with longer irons and swinging easier with shorter irons was they had to make the lie angle change. By changing the lie angle, they're compensating for the fact that guys are swinging harder, 4, 5, 6, easier, 9 pitching wedge, gap wedge, and that's what helps Cobra create, with their one lengths, create a consistent ball flight and a flight pattern for the general user. So for those of you who have asked me, and I've had thousands of questions about the lie angles, why does Cobra change it? Right from the horse's mouth, right from Tom, the VP of R&D, they change it because guys swing differently because the clubs are the same length. So now, with that being said, in an ideal world, if everybody using one length irons swung exactly the same as their 7-iron, then yes, lie angles would be exactly the same. But because guys don't, that's the reason Cobra changes the lie angles in order to produce a consistent ball flight across the entire iron set. Next thing we talked about was shafts. So shafts are another big thing when it comes to one length or single length irons. When Bryson started with them, Tom mentioned that Bryson wanted the exact same shaft as his 7-iron across the board. And what they found was that, to Bryson's dislike, using that same shaft, his 4 and 5, 6 irons were going way too low, and his wedges were going way too high. And that was an issue. And so after talking with Bryson a little bit and some of their research team and club team, they chose to keep the same model of shafts in the clubs, but change some of the kick points and some of the intricacies with the iron shafts. By doing so, they were able to improve and provide an ideal ball flight across all the clubs. So what you'll see is, if you buy a set of Cobra one length irons, is that your 4, 5, 6 have one shaft in it, your 7, 8, 9 will have a second shaft, and your wedges will have a third shaft. So the shafts are the same weight, they're all the same length, but changing a little bit of the shaft itself with the intricacies, the kick points, that's how Cobra is able to present the proper ball flights to you. So again, Cobra has a couple companies. When you go to their website and you custom order your clubs, there's a few companies that produce the one length shafts that they put in their clubs. Now, when you order, some guys will go and say, I want this exact shaft that I have in my variable lengths across all of them. And while you can order that, it's not going to produce the ideal ball flights. So when ordering directly from Cobra, Tom recommends going with one of their stock one length shaft makers to ensure that you get the proper ball flight across all of your irons. So we got into a lot of stuff, and you know, there's a lot of great detail and a lot of things that, you know, I can't fit into a video. I don't have enough time in the video that makes it worth watching. But, you know, we talked a couple more things and a few more questions that I get. Are there any other pros out there that are using Cobra one lengths? Well, off the top of his head, he didn't know of any specifically by name, but he is familiar with a few pros around the world using them, or at least putting them into play in a tournament. He wasn't sure exactly who they are, as I said, because he's in the R&D side with the clubs, and he's based here in the U.S. But he did say that there's quite a few amateurs that he knows of that are really good players that have the chance to really make a name for themselves in the upcoming years that are using one length irons. They have a few very high level amateurs on their R&D staff that work with the one length development. So there are some amateurs that have the potential to get on the tour, whether it's in the US or around the world, that are using one length irons. So in the future, yes, we can see more tour pros coming and using one length options. And another question, how long will Cobra stick with the one length? Well, they continue to grow. The one length concept continues to grow. They continue to sell. As I said, it's 35% of their sales from last year is one length irons. So it's growing. The concept is growing. And Tom looks for it to continue to grow and is excited for the growth of one length. But he did say a lot of that currently rides on Bryson. Bryson's success is going to help drive the one length success. And they've seen the effects of Bryson winning the US Open. They've seen the effects of Bryson getting better and better. And it's not just the one lengths. Yes, one lengths are up, but so are their drivers because of Bryson. So the more Bryson grows in popularity, the better he does, the better Cobra's going to do, the better one length's going to do, and in general, the better the entire world of single length irons is going to do. So that's kind of the wrap up, guys. This video got a little long-winded. As I said, there was a lot of information that I got with Tom, a lot of things that we talked about, a lot of great things. And I look forward to a lot more coming from Cobra in the world of one length over the next few years. Tom and I, we're hoping to stay in touch. So, you know, I finally got my connection with Cobra. So, you know, he's very interested in what I do and promoting the one length, single length concept. So we're planning on staying in touch. So hopefully that's going to allow me to be able to get my hands on, get some more information for you guys as Cobra releases more one length sets and more clubs in general. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, especially for you one length, single length guys that are really diehards. I think this is a video that you guys really needed to see, that I needed to make for you. I do have another video coming out on some of the other products I saw today, but Cobra, Tom definitely deserved a full video to themselves today, especially when it comes to one length. So thank you to Tom. Thank you to Cobra Puma Golf for allowing me to hook up with Tom and really pick his brain a little bit. And as always, guys, golf smarter, not harder. And I will see you guys in the next video.